Hello, parents. Welcome back to our trainings. Today, we're going to be talking about what your kids need to know about bullying, rumors, and gossip. Now, most school age kids have had conversations with parents or teachers about bullying, but I also know from working with kids that some of them may not be entirely clear on some of these concepts, and there may be some confusion about the differences. And so we're going to talk about some of those things today to make sure that your kids are getting the right information and that also it's very clear for them what is bullying, what is not bullying, these different things about rumors and gossip, why it starts, what causes them, and just having a better understanding of these topics in general. So let me introduce myself. My name is Victoria Clark Jones, and I am a kids and teen mental health coach. I am also the founder of Victor Kids Life Coaching and a parent and teacher educator. I was a former school teacher for about 12 to 15 years, and I'm also the mom and stepmom of 5 kids ages 11 to 21. Now, I can remember being bullied myself when I was 9 years old, beginning at 9. It went on for a couple of years. And one of the things that, looking back, I wish I knew some of these things that I'm going to talk about today. One of the things that I found really difficult was that I didn't know what to do, how to handle these situations, or who to go to for help as well. Because of that, I had nobody to help me. I was trying to figure all these things out by myself. I internalized a lot of the messages that I received during that time, and it really affected my self confidence. And because of that, it affected my grades. They started to go down. I started to think that I was stupid. I started to believe all these messages that I was receiving. And also, it affected my ability to make friends both then as and also as I got older. So it definitely had an impact on me. So, whether or not you've talked to your child about bullying before, I want to encourage you to teach your kids these concepts that we're going to go over today so that they know what to do if they ever encounter bullying. So, one question I get a lot from kids, or maybe it's an excuse that you've heard when you confronted a student or child about bullying, is, but we weren't bullying, we were only teasing them, we were just having fun, right? And so I've had kids ask me, well, what's the difference? In fact, actually, we just had a talk today, and some of the kids weren't really sure. Well, what's teasing and what's bullying? And aren't they both bad? Or what's the difference? So, the first thing I always tell kids is let's look at the intention behind the words, right? But even that can get tricky because everybody's different, and what might bother one person might be funny to someone else, right? So, let's not look at it as how the other person takes it. We want to teach what the intention of the person doing the teasing or the bullying has, right? Here are some clear guidelines to teach your kids. So teasing, in this case, you care about the person you're teasing, right? It isn't meant to hurt the other person, and it's meant to get both people laughing, right? Sometimes you might kind of jokingly kind of call each other silly names, or laugh about something they're wearing or a mistake they made maybe, and it's meant to get both people laughing. It's done in good fun, right? Both the teaser and the person being teased can easily switch roles. And this is something that's really important because in bullying, there is a definite power dynamic of one person being more powerful than the other, right? And usually the roles don't switch. But in a teasing kind of making fun way, both the person being teased and teased, the person teasing and the person being teased can easily switch roles. So it's going back and forth, right? And sometimes you do have kids who do this a lot. So we want to make sure that teasing is actually only a small part of the relationship the two people have, and it doesn't happen constantly, right? It's not the only interaction going on between them. This is an important part, that it stops when the person being teased doesn't like it or gets upset. That's a super important idea to instill in your children is that teasing can very easily become bullying if somebody gets upset and the teasing continues, right? Then it switches over into bullying because somebody has told them to stop or set a boundary and the other person didn't respect that, right? So then there is a power dynamic that is an imbalance. Finally, now this is up for debate because I know some people, especially as they get older, they may joke about physical traits or mental ability. They might call someone, "Oh, you're a dum dum," or "You're stupid," or whatever. And so that is about mental ability. So again, let's look at the intention behind it, right? But in general, let's just teach kids that we try not to joke about these off limit topics. We try not to tease about them. These are jokes about race, religion, gender, physical traits, or mental abilities, right? I heard somebody else teach us if it's something that you can change, then it's okay. It's like, oh, you're wearing your shirt inside out, or you're wearing two different colored socks, right? And that's something they can change. So you can kind of tease about that, provided the other person's okay and laughing. Now, if it's something they cannot change, you cannot change your race, you cannot change the way you look sometimes, right? Whether you're wearing braces or whether you've got glasses, these are physical traits, or you can't really change your mental ability, right? So those things can feel like bullying because those aren't something that can easily be changed. Bullying, on the other hand, usually is one sided, and there is always one person feeling more powerful than the other. This is the power dynamic imbalance, right? You'll always see this in bullying. Now, it's intended to hurt, humiliate, or harm the other person, right? We talked about the intention. It's not meant to make them laugh and, oh, we're just having a good time together. You're actually trying to hurt the other person, right? Whether physically or emotionally. Now, it can be physical, but it can also be verbal or involve relationships with other people. Now, you'll often find that boys perhaps resort more to physical or verbal bullying. Girls maybe aren't as obvious, but they'll do what is called relational bullying, right? These are starting rumors, gossip, leaving people out. So we want to be aware that there is different kinds of bullying. There now is also cyberbullying, which is usually a mixture between verbal and relational bullying. Now, this is again an important distinction to make with kids. Bullying includes laughing at the target, not with the target, right? When you're laughing with somebody, you're both having a good time. When you're laughing at somebody, especially for something that they can't change, that is bullying. It continues, especially when the target becomes fearful, upset, or angry, right? This is how we know it crosses over into bullying. If the target says stop and they start to get upset and the other person continues, that's bullying. It usually involves comments meant to be cruel or causing embarrassment, done either in front of or behind the target's back, right? So going over these different distinctions between teasing and bullying, we always want to look at the intention behind it, right? And being aware that teasing can very quickly become bullying when one person sets a boundary and the other person doesn't respect it. So bullying can happen at any time and place, not just at school, right? We often talk a lot about bullying happening at school, and that's when it usually happens in person. But with kids all having mobile phones nowadays, a lot of bullying can also be done online, outside of school, on weekends, in the evenings, right? It's not just at school anymore. So, because of that, we need to educate our kids on who bullies tend to target. Now, in an ideal world, we wouldn't have to worry about this and we would just deal with stopping the bullying behavior. But as parents and teachers, we are limited to what we can do about other kids' behavior, especially if it happens in school and we're not there, right? So, what we want to do is help our kids develop skills and character traits to stay off a bully's radar, right? We want to teach them what a bully looks for, right? We're talking about power imbalance. They tend to look for these things. The person is alone or has no friends, right? They're easier to single out. They don't have witnesses, so nobody can corroborate their story if they do report, right? A bully will often look for somebody, a loner, somebody who is by themselves a lot or who's quiet, right? And this is the second point. The person has weak body language, right? They're head down, shoulders slumped. Maybe they speak in a very quiet voice, right? Those bullies tend to look for those things because it indicates, oh, this is somebody who I can victimize and who maybe won't speak up or stand up for themselves because they don't have the kind of the personality to do it. The person has weak personal boundaries and won't speak up, right? So they may get, their stuff taken away from them. They may get shoved, and those people won't stand and won't say, hey, stop it. I don't like it. They're going to be like, shrug, or maybe just be like, okay, whatever, right? And then bullies like, no, oh, I can target this person and they're not going to stand up for themselves. They're an easy target, right? Weak personal boundaries. They don't say no, they don't speak up, they don't say stop. And if they do get bullied, maybe they, say stop or in a quiet voice. So they say it once or twice and then there's no consequences, right? They maybe just continue to say stop, or maybe they get really, really upset and don't look for help. They just get upset. Now, this is also something that the person is different in some way. This is what a lot of bullies will look for because they need material to make these jokes or make these comments about, right? If it's verbal bullying. So the person is different in some way. This could be their looks, right? We talked about earlier. It could be their physical or mental ability. It could be their race. It could be their socioeconomic status, whether they're rich or poor, their preferences. This could be, either sexual preferences as they get older or as they're younger. Maybe they like to dress a certain way. Maybe they have a certain way of talking, right? Their religion, whether or not they're more quiet than the other kids, whether or not they're more emotional than the other kids, right? Boys tend to get bullied if they maybe show a bit more emotion, like they cry a lot, or maybe they're a bit more sensitive. They will get targeted by their friends for those differences, right? Now, of course, there are some things like differences that can't be helped and that we don't actually want our kids to suppress, regardless of not whether or not it makes them a target, right? The other things for sure, we can teach our kids to have friends around them, to have confident body language, to speak up and to set personal boundaries. But what we don't want our kids to do is to try to change who they are and their differences in order to not be targeted, right? Because that's not what we want. We don't want chameleons. And this is a lot of kids will do this. They will tend to side with the bully or maybe even change their personality so they won't be targeted, right? And this is what we don't want because really they are getting the message that if I am different in any way, then I am worthy of being bullied. And we don't want them to get that messaging. So in this case, we simply want to let our kids know that for the other things, sure, they're skill based, we can learn those skills. But when it comes to personal differences, it's never their fault if they are bullied for that, right? They're still a great kid, even with their differences. And we actually want to celebrate these differences, right? We want to frame these differences as things that make them unique and that there's a place in the world for them, whether or not other kids understand that, right? So if you're a smart kid, hey, you know what? There are plenty of other kids who maybe were a little bit quote unquote nerdy or dorky and they became, Steve Jobs or, Bill Gates or whatever. There is a place in the world. And as you get older, people will start to understand. Kids can be very cruel and they may not understand differences or respect differences. And obviously that's what we're trying to change. We're trying to get kids to understand and respect differences, but it's going to take some time, right? So while we are educating our kids to accept differences, and we want to do that with our own kids as well as others, but we also want to teach them that just because you have some kind of difference, whether it's physical, whether it's a psychological, whether it's a preference, whether it's an emotional thing, it never gives them the right to be bullied, right? They don't deserve bullying in any way, shape, or form. So next, another question I get from, this is probably from more younger students, right? Is what's the difference between telling and tattling, right? You get a lot of kids up and all up in each other's businesses, and they're reporting on every single little thing, and they're coming to the teacher and saying, "Hey, teacher, this and this person is doing that," right? And I worked in a classroom before, and I know it can be very overwhelming for teachers. And I'm sure if you're a parent, if you have multiple kids, then they probably spend a good time of their a good portion of their time with you tattling on each other, right? So it can feel very overwhelming. And it can also lead to them perhaps brushing off when a student or child really does need help, right? That's the danger there. When you have kids coming to you every 5 minutes reporting about something, you're like, okay, just whatever, right? And so I know I've heard students say, well, sometimes I come to the teacher and I do ask for help because I saw some other kid being bullied. And the teacher just kind of said, okay, whatever, they'll work it out. And they kind of dismiss it. And that leads to kids feeling, oh, see, the adults don't really care. So either I can't protect myself, and when I do go to an adult, they're not going to help me, right? So it's really important that if you have kids, to teach them the difference between telling and tattling. We want to teach them discernment and judgment, good judgment, when it comes to reporting something to an adult. Number one is, what is their motivation for reporting? Is it to get someone in trouble, or is it to get someone out of trouble, right? Sometimes it may even be both. So if it is both, right? If it is going to get somebody in trouble, but you know what? It's also going to help me or somebody else get out of trouble. Then we want to teach our kids to err on the safe side and tell an adult who can help, right? So as our kids start to move into their tweens and teens, they might have friends who may be in trouble and who need help, but they specifically tell your child not to tell anyone, right? And so this is where teaching them these two ideas, is it to get you or someone else out of trouble, or is it only to get someone in trouble? When they can ask themselves those two questions and answer honestly, they will have a better idea about what is the next step, right? So we need to teach our kids, especially as they get older, that if it concerns someone's safety, even if the other person has asked them not to tell, the best thing to do is tell a safe adult so that person can get the help they need, right? And I also want to bring a special point to parents' attention that I've had kids probably as young as 9, but definitely as they get into the tween years, tell me that they don't want to tell their parents if they or a friend needs help, right? And I've had numerous kids tell me this, right? No, I can't go to my mom. I can't go to my dad and tell them about this, right? Or even I can't go to my teacher. So this could be for a number of reasons. It could be because, at home telling their parents, they might feel that it's going to be used against them later on, right? Or maybe, hey, you can't hang out with that friend anymore, right? It's going to impact them in some way. Or maybe it's just that they're at the developmental stage where they're starting to gain independence from their parents. So whatever the reason is, it's important to keep in mind and make sure that you encourage your child or tween to form relationships and connections with other safe adults in your world, right? This can be an extended family member. It could be a teacher at school. It can be a coach. It could be a helping professional, right? Starting to build that village. It doesn't have to be, 10, 20 people. It can be 2 or 3 close friends who you trust. They share the same values that you do, right? That's also important. And it's more important that your child has that other safe adult to go to, then we try to push against normal developmental changes and insist on them telling us everything. I know some parents don't want to allow them to have close relationships with other adults because they're like, well, they should be coming to me. They should be telling me these things. And because of the developmental stages that their child may be going through, their child doesn't have that other safe adult. They're like, well, if I can't tell mom or dad, then it means I don't have anybody else to tell. And this is often where they go to friends or peers for information or for support. And their friends are often just as clueless as they are, or they give bad advice, right? So having a safe adult who's going to give them, valuable information that's actually effective and safe, right? It's so important, especially as your kids get older. So we want to start doing this when your child starts, I'd say third or fourth grade, right? We want to take them because it's going to take time for them to get used to trusting these adults. So start as early as third or fourth grade, because by fifth grade, they may start to go through these changes and not want to tell parents these things, right? So make sure that you have this foundation that they can go to another safe adult. And it's just going to give you more of a peace of mind knowing that your child is supported, even if they choose to go to another adult than rather than you. So next, I want to talk about the three roles in a bullying situation. This is a really important concept to teach kids as well, because most kids are very clear on the bully role and the bullied role, right? They've probably been in a bullied role before, and they may know a bully. However, what they don't realize is that in most bullying situations, definitely where there's other children involved and it's not just one on one, there is a third role, which is called the bystander. Now, this is someone who witnesses the bullying or is aware that it's going on, right? So many of these kids who are bystanders are really unsure of what they should do or say, if they should get involved, or I've had kids tell me that they're afraid if they speak up that they may become targeted. The bully is going to target them next, right? Basically, I put myself on their radar by standing up for the other kid. They don't realize that in most of these situations, simply speaking up and drawing attention to what's going on has the power to stop the bully from continuing or escalating their behavior, right? That whole saying of, evil thrives when good men do nothing, right? When we just allow these things to happen, that also almost empowers the bully, because they see people watching and they're like, ooh, right, look, no one's going to say anything. And it almost empowers the bully and disempowers the person who's being bullied even more, because they see people standing there watching them and not helping. And so they don't what they internalize is not that, oh, these people may be afraid that they're going to be bullied or things like that. They internalize the belief of, see, no one's going to help me anyway. I guess I must not be worthy of help, right? And maybe I deserve this. If nobody is stepping in to try to protect me, maybe I deserve this, right? And that's such a sad belief to develop. But I know a lot of kids, this is what I learned when I was younger, and I believed that there was something wrong with me. And I guess, look, if nobody else was saying anything, then it must be true, right? No one was stepping in to refute what was being said. So we want to really teach our kids strategies on how to intervene in the situation in a safe way, right? And we can teach scripts, we can teach practice these things at home, role play these situations so they know exactly what to say. They're not trying to come up with something on the spot, right? There are some very short, clear phrases that can be said. I'm going to talk about that in our next slide, that can just stop the bullying situation, or at least get other people realizing what's going on and get eyes on the situation, and also get an adult involved, right? So we want to teach them, one, to intervene in the situation in a safe way that won't escalate. We want them to report to an adult who can help, and also to offer encouragement and comfort to the person who was bullied, right? This can make a really big difference in this type of situation. And it's also a great way to just build your child's confidence and courage by showing them that they are courageous, right? They took action and they were what we call an upstander rather than a passive bystander. They chose to take action and do something. And that feels really good for a child's confidence, right? I can speak up, my voice matters, and I was protecting another child, right? I am, it can build their confidence in many ways. I'm a good person. I am a helpful person. I am a good friend, right? All of these things that we want our kids to believe about themselves. So it's not often these days that bullying will escalate to being physical like it was in the past. In the past, it was like, yep, go out to the backyard and go duke it out, and you know, you guys will work it out that way, right? It's not encouraged to get physical like that. Sometimes as kids get older, yes, they may resort to being physical, but it's not as common, I would say. So most bullying situations can be stopped simply by the child who's being bullied speaking up and setting a clear boundary with their words, right? Now, this is something I see a lot of kids struggle to use clear, assertive language when standing up for themselves. They are either passive or they move straight into being aggressive, which gets them in trouble, right? They get angry, they start yelling, maybe they start calling names in an effort to try to defend themselves, but they're doing it in a way that other people may say, hey, you were the bully, right? And so we want our kids to understand the difference that being assertive is not mean and it's not aggressive, right? There is a difference. So, a good rule of thumb to remember is the saying, respect yourself, respect others. We want to teach our kids that. Good rule of thumb, just remember this, respect yourself and respect others. What this means is we can stand up for ourselves in a way that's still respectful to the other person in the way we speak and act. Now, being respectful does not mean being nice. So many kids think they have to be nice, which means oh, it's okay. Oh, no, it doesn't matter, right? Being nice and being respectful are two different things. You can be very firm without being mean, right? You can still be respectful and firm at the same time. So, another important thing is tone of voice and body language are also important to communicate a boundary to a bully, right? I talk about this in my 3 C's of communication, right? Confident body language, really, really important. So you can practice these kind of sentences at home using strong, clear voices and confident body language. So some of these very, again, short and sweet. You don't have to give a huge explanation. No, right? No is a full sentence and saying it in a strong, confident voice. No, right? You can even have a hand that goes up and says no, like a stop sign. No, right? Stop, same thing. Stop with a hand. We also have I don't like that. I don't like that. Calm and clear and firm. We also have I need more space. If someone's getting close to you and getting all touchy feely with you and you say, hey, no, stop. I need more space. Or please give me more space. Right? Then we also have maybe some kids who are laughing, saying bad words, saying inappropriate languages, maybe making inappropriate noises or gestures. And you can very simply teach your child to say, please don't do that around me. Again, not a please don't do that around me, right? That's kind of a little bit passive. Assertive is strong and clear. Please don't do that around me, right? And if they continue, then you can move away, right? Or please don't touch me. Please don't touch me. Or even something as simple, you can teach younger kids that hands off, stop, hands off, right? Very clear. Now, another very powerful boundary setting sentence we can teach our kids is the if then sentence. And adults can use this too. We don't need to say a lot or give an explanation in this sentence because it's very powerful on its own and it shows you mean business. In fact, the more you explain and when you throw in the word because, then we're giving kind of an excuse and you need to give a reason, right? And we don't need to give a reason. If somebody is doing something that makes you uncomfortable, we can say very clearly, if da 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 da, you continue this behavior, if you continue to hit me, if you continue to use bad language around me, then I will do what? Right? If you continue to hit me, then I won't play with you anymore. Very clear, and that's not mean. We are simply setting a boundary. If you continue to touch me, then I will go tell a teacher. Right? Very clear, very short. It doesn't need, because what I didn't like it when you were doing that. Nope, we don't even need to explain. If da 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 da, then I will do what? Right? So teach your kids that. And finally, if your child has experienced bullying, an important part of bully proofing themselves is through the aftercare they receive. Now, this can be from a parent or a safe adult at the beginning when they're younger, and eventually we want to teach them to do this for themselves, because what we know about bullying is that it's not just limited to children in school. Right? You see it all over social media. You see adults doing it to each other. You see it in the workplace. You see it all over the place. So it's not just a child school issue. Your child is going to encounter bullying at many different times and stages in their life. So what we can control and what we can teach our kids to focus on is how they respond to a bully, and if they stand up for themselves or get help. But they can also control if the bullying will affect and weaken them, right? They can strengthen themselves through self-talk that counteracts the negative messaging they may receive in a bullying situation. So this can be something like, after they got help from a teacher and whatever, and they're just feeling kind of bad about themselves, they can simply say, and again, they can do this out loud, or they can do this in their mind, I didn't ask for this and I don't deserve to be bullied. The bully is having a hard day and is trying to get their needs met in a mean way. I'm still a great kid. Or if it's an adult, same thing. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be bullied. This bully is having a hard day, right? And they're taking it out on me. They're trying to get their needs met in some way and it's not very effective. And it doesn't matter. I'm still a great person. They're bullying. What they say about me is not a reflection of who I am, right? We talk about how people treat us is often a reflection of how they feel about themselves, right? And finally, it's important to remind ourselves that everyone has an opinion, especially in today's world of social media and online commentary. However, we get to choose whose opinion we listen to. Super, super important, right? Now, I know it's hard because, once stuff is said, it's not like we can just plug our ears and go, no, I didn't hear it, right? We wish we could. But unfortunately, we take in a lot more of this stuff than we probably should. And so we want to go back to that saying that don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from, right? So a good activity to do is to get a sticky note and write down the 5 people who are most important to you, right? Whose opinion you do care about, who you would take advice from. Now, stick that note up somewhere that you can see it and remind yourself that if you receive criticism or bullying, that if that person's name is not on your note, not on the list, then their opinion doesn't matter, right? Simply just say, you know what? Those people, great. They have an opinion. Everyone has one, right? Is that saying, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. And so if their name isn't on the list, then their opinion doesn't matter to me because they're not somebody that I care about and they're not someone I would take advice from, right? And just kind of keeping that in our heads and also teaching that to our kids as they get older. So finally, if you're looking for some hands-on activities or stories for kids to reinforce lessons on bullying, either as a teacher or as a parent, I invite you to check out our other YouTube training called 2 Stories for Kids on Bullying. We're going to be uploading that in the next couple weeks. So I found that incorporating a hands-on activity really drives the point home for kids because they remember, sometimes these kids are kinesthetic learners, and just having something that they can do and see and touch with their hands really makes a difference and helps this lessons stick in their heads. I had kids come to me, months after and say, "Oh, I still remember that lesson you taught me because we used these, we used a hammer and nail, or we used a toothpaste tube, or something like that." So I really encourage you, if you are looking for resources, to check that training out. And the last slide has the hands-on activity, and the rest of the slide has stories that you can, tell your students or your kids. Thank you so much for watching our training today, and I hope you found it valuable and can bring some of these discussions up to your kids and test their knowledge and see how much they know about this. And maybe as a parent, you learned something yourself today. So I encourage you to check out some of our other trainings as well. And if you like these trainings and would like a specific training on a specific topic, please let us know down in the comments below. We would love to help you out. Bye for now. Have a wonderful rest of your day.